Hello, everybody. My name is Kat. Welcome to the SIG Docs community meeting. It is August 20th. Happy to have you all here. Before we get started, are there any new contributors who did not put their names in the doc that would like to introduce themselves? No? Okay. First things first, your PR wrangler this week is Nate, who is here. Nate, wave. Yay. Your PR wrangler next week is me, and your PR wrangler the week after that is Ray. So if you need anything reviewed, approved, merged, have questions, bother your PR wrangler. This week's issue wrangler is Tim Bannister. Tim, give us a wave. And your issue wrangler the week after that is Depeche. Is Depeche here to wave? Depeche is here, but not on camera. Pretend Depeche waved. Good enough. So, as with all Kubernetes related meetings, this meeting does fall underneath the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which boils down to be excellent to each other. So please be chill. And if you notice a Code of Conduct violation, please report it to the Kubernetes Code of Conduct Committee. On with the agenda. The first thing we have up for release 131 is the docs retrospective. I am fine calling this green, by the way, Princess, since the release is over and the docs did get merged. The milestone still being open a little bit after is exceedingly common. I've seen it open for months after. So we should try to close it as soon as possible.
It's been closed. Ray just sent me a message. He just closed that out a few minutes.
Your connection is real bad, just FYI. You sound like a robot. If you want to type in the chat, that's okay too. Or we can run the retro for you. That's fine. It's your call since you were the docs lead. She appears to have frozen. That's okay. She will be right back.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep, can hear you now.
Okay, so I don't know what the issue is. Anyway, Ray just sent me a message that the milestone has been closed. So I'm just going to go ahead and merge the 1.32 milestone applier. Yeah, so yeah. I'll just remove that after this call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then you're doing the docs lead onboarding. That's great. Do we have any items from 131 that we want to discuss as a retro in this meeting? Anybody? Do we have any concerns about the next release or anything we want to change?
Reaching for the mute button here. Is this a place where we want to talk about the generated docs, or is that a different thing that we want?
I have it under discussion points too. It can be discussed either place, I think.
Yeah.
Either's good. We can do it now. You want to do it now?
You totally can.
Okay. Yeah, I think reference docs is not, I think as it stands, it's not working super well. What we have like as the current process. Yeah. It's very opaque. It's not super well documented. So I think
you're muted.
Am I?
No, you're not.
I found it out. Muted. Muted is a Spanish psychological.
Excellent. All right. So I think at least the first step that I see going forward is spinning up a sub-project of SIG docs specifically for reference docs. And I think that that at least can get us, we can start a dedicated, like bi-weekly meeting time for that project that we can, hopefully pair during that time. And, hopefully we get some dedicated contributors for that project. I think initially what we need to do for reference doc generation is just get in there and, we are SIG docs, document the code and document the process for doing the generation. I think what we ran into this time could not have been avoided even with generation, because the issues that Chiming corrected were extensive with, it took several PRs to correct. So I don't know that could have been avoided, but I do think there are some general things that we can do to, better document the current process and the current code so that, things can be more easily picked up by others in the future. And then aside from that, I think, for at least the 132 release, Kat and I can probably plan to try and generate the docs on release day.
We literally just need the tags cut to be able to do it. For context, before we call on Tim, for those of you who have not looked at how the reference API docs are generated, it is the code itself is completely ungenerated. It is a bash script that calls a completely undocumented Python script that calls a series of completely undocumented Go scripts. It is a rat's nest, and there's not really another way to describe it. The documentation, like quick start guide that does exist on how to do this, is incomplete. It relies on things like having your Go path set, and Go path hasn't been used in a very long time. So it's just it's very messy, and it's got a number of failure modes that are similarly completely undocumented. You're left reading through the code and trying to figure out what's going on by looking at previous PRs that were open to try to fix what may have been a similar problem with generating the docs. So it's very messy, and it's gotten to a point where basically only one person can reliably do it, which is not maintainable or very open source of us or very SIG docs of us. So we do have to fix it. Tim?
There's no one person who knows how to generate all the reference docs. Chiming knows most of the processes, but not all of them.
Even worse. It seems like several people know how to do parts of it, but the only person who could have resolved this problem was Chiming, and this was also a problem that he was aware that we were going to run into.
Cool.
And this is something that happens nearly every release, and it's not.
I have another
documented.
point if I can.
Sure.
So the first point we could surface these problems is not release date. It is the earliest alpha cut that there has a tag. And that's what I recommend. Generate the docs for the first alpha and open a PR. And don't merge it, but just see if the PR would merge and preview it.
Yeah.
If that's possible, we can start doing that. The problem is I'm not exactly sure what the reference docs automation is relying on. I think
it's probably going to go terribly wrong.
Yeah, I think it's
but we
pulling
should change
from
the process. We should it's probably going to go terribly wrong. We should change the process so that you can document for generate reference docs for the alpha tags.
Well, yeah, eventually we are going to have to almost entirely rewrite this thing. It's ridiculous that it's a bash script calling a Python script calling 3 Go scripts. So yeah, eventually we're going to have to adjust it so that it can support something like generating the reference docs at the first alpha cut. But fortunately right now the priority is get it documented so that we can handle its failure modes while we're also slowly rebuilding the thing.
Yeah, I think the path that we're leaning into at this point is, like Kat said, sub-project, step 1, extensive documentation, which will lead into refactoring, hopefully. But I do like the idea of shifting the process earlier in the release, like trying to start towards the alpha cut, because hopefully we can pick up some of the failure modes earlier then.
Yeah. Tim?
So we haven't yet updated the reference docs that get hyperlinked from in the left nav. They are not updated yet. I put a link in the chat, Zoom chat.
Okay.
So there's a one-page API reference that was for a long time the only API reference, and then there's another one that appears in the navigation, which Philippe Martin, Philoy on GitHub largely worked on.
Okay.
But we also don't have a good process for getting those up to date. I don't think they've been done.
Okay.
I think there might be one more PR on the website that needs an approve. I LGTM'd it yesterday. I have all of the PRs on the generator merged. I think there might be one more PR on the website that needs to be merged with just an approve.
Could you drop that one in the chat if you've got a moment?
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, thanks.
I think that might be the case.
I believe we need the work done. We need the generation done. We need a PR, and it needs reviewing for the new style reference docs that appear in the left nav. Would anyone like to know why we have two API references?
Sure.
So Chiming made the first API reference, and it was a standalone thing. It still is a standalone thing. It's all in one page. Some people like that more, but it doesn't integrate with the rest of the website, and people would go there and then they wouldn't know how to navigate anywhere else. So that was bad. Whereas I'm going to call it the new style API reference, if you go to, say, the page on deployment, there's some metadata that's at the top right of the sidebar for deployment. You get taken to the new style deployment API reference. So the nav stuff is good, but it's not as complete as the old style thing. And for, I don't know, a couple of years now, we've been sort of mid-migration, but it doesn't get staffed very much.
That's probably something we should resolve eventually. Yeah,
Never
that's
mind.
something we
Shipping
should.
doesn't have another PR open on the website.
Okay, we'll have to look into that. So currently it's not possible for release docs to do this because it's too much of a pain in the ass. Obviously release docs used to do it consistently before 1.19, and Nate did it for 1.2.4. But otherwise it's not possible for release docs to do this anymore. So it's been removed from the release docs handbook. It was removed a couple of cycles ago. Because even by the time I removed the documentation, the only documentation on release docs was literally DM Chiming and make sure that it gets done, which isn't great, but I would kind of like to get back to a point where release docs can do this. So it'll be a question of is just documenting the hell out of the current process and its failure modes enough to let release docs do it? Obviously it's not going to happen for the next cycle, but maybe the cycle after that. I don't know. I kind of want to work towards that. I would like release docs' input there. Tim, you've got your hand up again. What's up?
I have a recommendation. Get release docs as soon as possible. Do the alpha thing. Do the build for the alpha. And even if it fails, it's like, okay, we tried to build for alpha and it failed because we have no idea what we're doing. But record that as yeah, this red now. And have release docs as soon as we can, maybe 1.32, maybe later. Own the chasing up and say, hey, SIG docs, we need to get you to do this thing. Does it work? And SIG docs is like, yeah, it's red. We don't know how it works. Alpha's not possible. But you get that feedback loop before you get the implementation. That's my recommendation.
Okay. We can't make them try the alpha cut. Because right now it's not in a state. And before the alpha is out, I don't know that Xander and I will have the documentation in a state where somebody else could try it. Because there's like
Let me
serious-
clarify what I mean. It's literally a Slack message saying, "Hello, I'm from Release Docs. I believe I have to ask SIG Docs to generate some alpha docs, but I also have a note here that says you might say it's failed. How did it go?" And then,
Okay.
For 132, maybe you can't say, yeah, it's not done yet. It's failed.
Okay.
But at that point, we have a feedback signal saying, "Yep, that didn't work well, and we know we've got a problem," and it puts it on people's minds.
Okay. I mean, that's a very quick add to the release docs handbook. That's a couple of lines. So does anybody want to take the action item to add that to the release docs handbook?
I'll do that.
Okay, great, thank you. Anything else on the reference docs generation? Okie dokie. Anything else on release docs in general, how 131 went and what we might change for 132 now that we're in full swing planning for 132? Any concerns?
How did the feature gates thing land? Because that update to the feature gates page is pretty settled in now. Does it work?
Princess?
So I wanted to say that I didn't get the opportunity to actually try that this time because it was already done. So hopefully by the next cycle we'll know if that works. But I'd like to add some of the things that we found to the documentation so that the next release docs lead would be able to figure that part out.
Okay. Anything else
maybe
on
I
release
can
docs?
add.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Nothing special. Just first of all, I wanted to thank Princess for the great leadership. Everything was smooth, and we didn't have any issue problem during the cycle. One thing that comes to my mind that I was just curious, I didn't hear much about many of responsibilities that Princess had as the team lead. So I don't know how that would be passed to the next lead for the next cycle. But I also didn't went through the handbook to read if there are information about that and things like that. I wasn't curious enough to search for information. I'm just mentioning this on the team level and on the info that was passed in the cycle. And one more thing, the template messages that we were sending on the issues. I am not sure if those were mentioned in the handbook either. If not, it would be a good idea to have those templates.
So you don't have to use any templated messaging, even if it exists in the handbook, you don't have to use any templated messaging. You are free to go off the rails. I often do on the release team. As for the release lead's responsibilities, though, or the docs lead's responsibilities, until the last week of the release, the docs lead's responsibilities are exactly the same as yours, aside from managing you. They manage you, but otherwise they're doing this exact same, talking to CAP owners, chasing down deadlines. They should be taking on an equal share of the work. So aside from that very last week, they are doing exactly what you are doing. So you should be prepared. And the things that the docs lead has to do that last week, they generally do hand in hand with somebody from SIG Docs. They are not doing it alone. And so whoever succeeds a lead is also not going to do it alone. I also don't have a problem with shadows coming along to watch that. They just can't do it because they don't have the necessary permissions to take some of those actions. For putting templates in the handbook, go for it. Please do. They are a helpful thing for some people to have a guide on like what to say. So if there are like messages that feel templated that y'all were sending to KEP owners, go ahead and add them in the relevant parts of the handbook. There are already several in the handbook though. If there are more that were used that are not there, go ahead.
Yeah, Princess was kind enough to provide us with those templates, but I didn't check if those are also available in the handbook or not. But if
Yeah.
not, might be a good idea to add those. But yeah, thanks for that last week explanation. It makes everything much clearer.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that they are actually documented in the handbooks. So if you go through the handbooks and everything that you need to do week after week, you'd find all those templates there, Miriam.
Yeah, great. That's really nice.
Anybody else on the release or release docs? I don't think we really ran into any major problems. It was pretty smooth, at least from the outside. So I don't have any issues. Okay. That's it. Comms is also green. They are done, so they don't even have a reason to be here other than the incoming lead. Hello.
Hello. Actually, I wanted to say that, and this is mostly for Tim, I'll do my best to have less pressure on the last like week, because I understand we all had like a lot of reviews to do, and probably I can find a way to make it a bit less burdening on SIG docs. That would be,
So
I think.
it's always going to kind of be like that, but you should like limit it. You
Yeah.
can ask the docs team to help you review blogs. And you should ask the docs sub team to help you review blogs. That is totally fine.
Yeah. Our problem, I think, was mostly around the labels more than the review itself. Like
Okay.
the review, the note was ready pretty much, but it was missing, of course, the labels and stuff. And I think the review was more thought of from SIG docs than from like us shadows or like the SIG itself.
Yeah.
Let's say SIG node or whatever. That is more like a technical review. So more like styling and those kind of things were more enforced by SIG docs. So
Yeah. That always is. But yeah, there's not a way to make the end of those cycles
Yeah.
not like super stressful for us, but we can minimize it, but it's always going to be a little bit of a rush. Okay. Do we have any other questions or discussion points that need to be brought up in this meeting? Because we are now at the end of the agenda. Anything else? No? Cool beans. Well, thank you folks for coming to this lovely SIG Docs community meeting on this fine Tuesday. I hope you have a lovely day and that everybody who's already in their evening has a lovely evening.
See y'all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.